landfill charges for tires. So if somebody has tires, we won't take them on our site because we don't want to handle the cash, but the landfill's used to handling the cash at their gate. So we would direct them back to the landfill gate and pay for their tires and then dispose of them how they would normally do that, which would be in the cell. We don't take the liquid waste or the hazardous waste, but like I mentioned before, the household hazardous waste facility would be open that morning. If you had that stuff, you could take it there. We don't take a lot of electronics like TVs and computers. There's a $15 disposal fee with that. I'm suggesting that maybe we offer where we would take. I don't want to just open up and say we're going to take all the TVs because the city will have to pay that. We'll have to pay the landfill for every $15 for every TV if we were to accept it. I'm suggesting maybe we take like 1 or 2 TVs per household. Not again. I don't want to get it. If you just leave that unlimited, I think you run the risk of getting someone who's got, it could be a business that's got a lot of tube TVs laying around that could bring them to you. So I'd be hesitant to do unlimited, but maybe you do a couple. And as I mentioned before, major appliances can go to Frank's. We will take construction debris. Someone comes with if it's a commercial contractor, let's say it's, a big bin full of shingles, we're not going to take that. But if it's someone who's doing looks like they're, a resident's doing a project, yeah, we'll take construction stuff. This is a more inclusive option than before. Right now, we only take from single-family dwellings. We could take from any resident, and we're talking that, we'll get some sort of verified address, whether that's, an ID is great. Some people have IDs because they've just moved. So if they have some sort of verification of address, whether that's, a check or a bill or something that says, yeah, I live at that address, we'll accept that. Again, it's more flexible. Right now, you have 1 day a year. You have to have your stuff out by 6 a.m. that day, and then we pick it up. This we're proposing 4 Saturdays. We are kicking around the idea of guiding people to 2 of the 4 Saturdays, maybe like the east parts, the first and third Saturday, the west side of town's the second, fourth, because we're kind of worried that the first day is going to be just a big rush of everybody, or the first 2 days. So try to blend it out so we don't end up with long lines. So those are one of the ideas that we've been kicking around operationally, is to have a split in there, but we can have a conversation about that. So, and one of the reasons why we're doing this is the kind of stuff we see at our curbs, for the month or half a month of April and May. The other thing that we want to eliminate is, I know it's kind of fun, but the sport of junking sometimes can be a real burden on our property maintenance staff. This is one of the houses we deal with. This is somebody that, the term professional junker is the appropriate term, I don't know, but and this is what their property looks like after our spring cleanup days. So, and this then becomes a property maintenance issue that we're dealing with, and issues in the city. And as I mentioned before, kind of what really brought my attention to this, it is just a giant distraction for the mission of our public works crew. We calculated it kind of in a rough number that it's about 1,800 hours of time is consumed with the spring cleanup days. And that's the 4 days where all your staff's working on it. Plus there's a day of mobilization and a day of demobilization. So you're really losing 6 days, key times during the day. And what do you get for 1,800 hours? Well, you can do 43 new panels of concrete. You can do 114 miles of crack sealing, 30 intake repairs, 20 valves replaced. We calculated. You can't do all that, because then this is probably what you'd see more realistically when you put people on their projects and did it. But these are the kind of things we're just not getting done when we're doing the spring cleanup, and it's. The other thing, usually we have at least one injury a year requiring some sort of medical attention, whether that's a poke or a sprain or something like that. But, those would be avoided. Other topics for discussion. I've had some conversations with not all of you, but some of you on here. We talked about a reuse pile, about, could it be somewhere someone thought they had stuff that could be reused? Would we have that? We can't do it inside the landfill gates. They don't allow other parties to come in and scavenge out of a landfill. The DNR permit won't allow them to do that. Other times during the year, if we do this and you think it's successful, and we can work with the landfill, and maybe if you don't want to do 4 days in the spring, you can do 2 days in the spring, 2 days in the fall, or something like that. If there's a more convenient way to do that, that could be up for discussion. The one thing about a curbside pickup and hauling by volunteer groups, if we're not doing it and somebody wanted to get in the business of or not the business, but we could foresee. I always mention what is the one that delivers sand? Is it Kiwanis? Is it the Kiwanis that deliver sand? They get a truck from somewhere and a bunch of people volunteer and they shovel sand and do that for you if you want to buy sand. Maybe a group like that would want to do it in kind of the reverse and work with, for a donation, clean up someone's garbage. If that does come to fruition, if somebody wanted to do that, we would work with whatever the association, and we would accept that. We would say, if they had went to 5 or 6 houses and came down, we'd accept that they were doing it. We'd want to know ahead of time who was doing it, so we're not supplanting a commercial hauler, but there are ways around that for people that would have stuff that they absolutely can't get it there themselves. So that was a rather quick proposal there. Is there any questions, or we want to have some discussion?
David, you said you're going to have staff on site there then 4 Saturdays?
Yeah.
And some trucks? What do you plan on for staff and equipment there to take?
So I think we're talking about having 2 dump trucks, 2 loaders, and then probably was it 5 staff, Doug, or were you thinking 6, or were we 6 staff? And we're going to staff up the first one for sure, just in case it's a little more chaotic than we think, and then we can adjust that down from them. But we think we're going to have, one truck one truck is running from the drop-off site to the cell, the other truck will be unloaded. So there'll be kind of an exchange of trucks, and then I know, Doug, you want to have 2 loaders there for that as well. So and I didn't have a number in here, but there's going to be a little bit of overtime for that. You're going to have 4 days, and so you're probably generating $800 just from the hip, throwing your number, about $800 overtime a day.
If I were to go over there on a Saturday as a citizen, what do I need to do to verify I am a citizen? Do they look at the?
I don't think it matters right now. I think, Jeff, I think you guys just charge them $15, right? And you can dump. You don't have to, if I went there on a Saturday to dump a load of.
No, I meant.
But it's a charge, right? It's what is it? Is it $15?
But the Saturdays that we're not going to be charged, right?
We are not charging them.
But
No.
What I'm saying is, what prevents a guy from out of the city or the county from coming in?
So we'll have somebody at the gate that will be doing 2 things: directing traffic and verifying.
Okay.
Hey, okay, you're from Fort Dodge. Can you verify that, please?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And directing them back wherever around the corners you see the pile over there, go there, and then there'll be a couple guys working the pile.
See, I'm guessing that previous years, there's probably people that come in overnight and just drop their stuff from out of town and at the curbside, so it might eliminate a lot of that.
We've had that, and we've
I'm sure
had
it has
complaints filed that's happened.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a good idea. Let's try it. Basically, I think the staff's done a good job putting this together. I like it.
Are we going to limit the number of loads that an individual can take out there?
I wasn't intending on limiting that, nor would it limit the amount of trips. I mean, let's say you did it one Saturday, or you personally, you would go one Saturday and you get rid of a bunch of stuff, and you're like, oh, I got something else I want to take down there, and you go again. I don't think we want to limit that. I'm trying to make this as least administratively burdensome and hassle.
And the other question I had was on the household hazardous waste. They typically have a charge per can. Are we picking that up?
Not for residents.
Yeah.
For latex paint, there is.
What was that, Rob?
For paint?
Latex paint, there is a charge for latex paint.
There is a charge if you drop off latex paint, which really you shouldn't. You should dry latex paint, and then you can throw it in the landfill.
Because typically you have to have an appointment before you drop off, so they're on board with us just
Yeah.
showing up with a bunch of stuff.
Yes. Right.
And again, the city will or will not pick up the charge for latex.
I hadn't intended on picking up the charge for latex. I mean, really, people shouldn't be,
Well, you're right, they shouldn't, but they will.
well.
Okay.
The only thing I'm proposing, and again, that's for a discussion we should have, is do we want to pick up the charge for TVs? We don't have to. You could say that, no, we're not going to pick up the charge for TVs, and
I think we should.
we can figure a way around that. Again, I'm trying to avoid the city people, because they're going to be busy doing a lot of things, taking cash, whereas at the landfill, at the gate, they take cash, because that's what they do. We can do whatever, whatever you like. We'll probably just have to figure that out.
I think that'd be okay to have, just for 2 TVs. I don't see a problem with that. I'd rather see that going there than dumping it in some ravine someplace, which will happen if we don't do that, and you know that.
Yeah, and I say this sort of sarcastically, but I don't. I mean, there's a little bit of truth in the humor too. Is that if we don't take it, they're going to end up on Mason Drive, because that's the area that gets a lot of that dumping.
Only thing I wish that we would do, and you and I talked about this, we should contact the service groups to make sure that they know that we want to have somebody do this so they can fundraise some money. Because, there's people who don't have pickups and they don't have a way to get the trash out there. So that'd be a great way for a service group to do that. So I think we should contact 1 or 2 or 3 of the service groups, see if they want to do that.
And we could do that based on a discussion tonight. The direction you want to head in, as I can make contacts with the service groups and say, here's what we're willing to do if this is something that they want to take on.
So
as
if
a
you do
project.
that, yeah, I'd be all in favor of that.
That was one of my concerns also, that people don't have the access to vehicles to get this stuff out to the landfill.
Yeah.
And we'll get probably a lot of calls. When's junk day this year? We've got to get the message out, is people are they're probably going to put their trash out no matter what.
Well, the days are always the first 2 Wednesdays in April, and last 2 Wednesdays in April, first 2 Wednesdays in May are the days, and we go by the quadrants in town. So that's why I wanted to have this now, so that if we're making a decision to go a different route, or if we stay the same route, we can get that message out that here's what we're doing this year.
And also, if we could also put out there too, that any metal that would be that the junk man would pick up and take, any of the old metal stuff that would not need to be recycled and would not go to landfill.
Yeah, and wouldn't that be what Frank's would take? Wasn't it take scrap?
Right, they would take that. In fact, I think they pay you for it.
Yeah,
They will.
sometimes they do.
Are we concerned with speaking directly to property maintenance that our existing homes that would normally get rid of junk will stockpile? Because I think if we go to this proposal, I think we're going to see a drastic number of people not clear out junk because they have to do something
Where do you think they'll keep it?
in their house, in their yards,
Well, they can't keep it in their yard, or they'll be in violation of property maintenance code.
which is the concerns we're trying to address.
Yeah, well, I mean, those
Actually,
are photos
there's-
taken from our property maintenance.
Actually, there's people do it already.
Yeah,
They don't throw it away.
I posted a poll to Facebook this afternoon about this specific proposal, and it has been pretty overwhelming that people want to keep it the same that have responded back, although it is absolutely not a scientific poll whatsoever. Last I checked, it was 50, and it was 80% in favor of keeping the same.
50 or 15?
50,
Okay.
which was shocking that many people liked my page.
That's what I was thinking. 15 sounded more accurate.
Well, I'd let you know that one thing I do know by sitting on this council for 6 years, that people don't like change. They resist it. Every time we want to change something, they resist it.
Absolutely.
and that's why we've tried to make it, it's changed and it's not curbside, so it's less convenient. But we're trying to offer more.
I'm curious if
services.
your poll you conducted said, would you prefer junk to be picked up from your front yard and on display throughout 4 weeks? Or would you like, and you put up that slide of all the work that's going to be done, or would you prefer that to be done? How would you rather your tax dollars be spent? I'm curious if you would get different responses. No thanks. My only thought is that if we're willing to pick up the fees for TVs, that I would like to see us pick up the fees for tires. I think there should be limits on those. In regards to latex paint, I was understanding that as a resident, you don't pay a fee. You're thinking that even an individual resident does. I believe that we do have a policy that limits the amount, the number of cans they can drop off. So there's already a policy in place through household hazardous waste that'll limit that. Mostly because, like you said, it's really just a matter of opening the lids and giving it time to dry out, and then you can just put it in your trash can. If you were to go back to the map where you showed the drop-off,
Yeah.
I know one of the things that we have been discussing to do at the landfill for residents versus commercial haulers is right inside the gate is having some roll-offs that are going to sit there, so that as just a residential user comes in to dispose of something out of their trunk or the back of their pickup, that those can go into those roll-offs, and then as those fill, we can then take them to the dump site. And so I don't know if that could get confusing, like on,
When I met with David, we talked about that, but that's down the road yet.
yeah. And maybe we wouldn't have those in place at the landfill yet. Maybe we could.
Yeah.
But that was just something that I thought maybe could still potentially be worked out, that could limit the amount of city staff that we need to have on hand. Could also potentially put us in an opportunity where if we know that this roll-off was all city stuff, it could be calculated on weight versus the amount of people that stop by at $15 a person, but instead charge them by weight, would be a more, I think could be a cost-effective way for the city to get rid of those things. But just some other things that maybe need to be hashed out, and maybe there are things that don't get hashed out prior to this happening for the first time, that we find things that worked and look for things that may make it work better next time, and look to implement those things then each time.
Well, anytime you do something new, you always have to tweak it after a while. And
Yeah, I mean, that's just what new things do. You try something new, and you find the things that worked well and the things that didn't work well, and the things that didn't work well, you find ways to make them work better next time.
So if this does work, could we do a couple Saturdays in the fall? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, it's worth exploring. I mean, again, we got to see how this works. I mean,
Right.
we're getting a little bit of special treatment from the landfill folks, so that and we appreciate it, but it's a little extra burden on them, to have the household hazardous waste open on Saturday and open for whoever comes, and we're trying to schedule the time so that we're not burdening them with any overtime, because they try to be done and closed down at noon. So, and they got to have everything covered. That's why we're in then at 11, so that we're done dumping so they can cover. So we're trying to find the best ways to work together to be as convenient as possible. But if it runs smooth and it's something that we can work together and do one in the fall or do two in the fall, maybe just split them up some other way than what we're doing now. I mean, I think that's all up for discussion. As Jeff mentioned, they're looking at doing a kind of be, I guess, a quasi-permanent sort of customer drop-off site that's safe, and you're not going to the actual open and operational cell to drop, and that would be convenient. And if that turns out to work well and be successful, maybe this changes even more and becomes something that's not a special day, but is a special pass we want to give out to our residents to do it. We used to do years ago, well, we didn't pay for it. Years ago, the landfill allowed every resident of every participating community one free drop pickup truck load basically a year. And I was on the board at the time, and basically we got rid of it because of just the expense of it. And there was a little bit of, I guess I would say, some of the farther out cities didn't think they were getting their bang for the buck, whereas Fort Dodgers, who were in town, were getting more of it. So it went away, and that was stopped being offered. at that point, I don't remember how many of you were on the council, but the council decided not to pick that up as a cost directly from the city. But that, again, those are all things that could be explored as, as landfill, management figures out better ways to do things, more convenient ways to do things. This could, change more.
And one other thing is, I know we talked about this, and I know they can't do it at the dump site, but in the future, if we could figure out a way, because I know there's people who like to repurpose, and like lawnmowers we talked about. I see a guy driving around with lawnmowers in the back of his trailer, and another guy with bikes in the back of his trailer, and they work on those bikes, and then they repurpose it, and then they sell it. That saves us from putting that stuff in a landfill. So somewhere in the future, if we could find a site where we could do something like that, maybe.
Craigslist,
Craigslist.
Facebook, or if you want to spend money and add in the paper. I mean, if I got 10 old free bike frames I want to get rid of, and I put that on Craigslist, it's in 24 hours, I got a dude calling me and that's coming to pick it up for free. It's out there. It exists. You just got to get on the internet and post it.
Yeah, I've never looked into that, but that's something we could look at. Is there a way just to be more
Just something this is something we could
proactive
look
with,
at.
keeping the exchange privately? I know as Chad was telling me about when they did in Algona, they basically had like this gauntlet where they had to, before they got to the dump site, or which is dumpsters, the pickers would just pick out of the vehicles, I guess, while they waited in line. I thought that was kind of weird, but and could be very interesting. But if we're doing it inside the landfill, they can't have scavengers in there.
So we just have a few minutes left here, so I'm just going to kind of run down the line here. If you support it, please say yes or no you'd like to see this change. It's not an official vote, but I think staff kind of needs some direction. So, Mr. Flattery,
I'm okay with it.
Mr. Halter,
Been looking forward to it for 4 years.
Mr. Conrad.
I feel it's a very beneficial service we offer to our citizens, although burdensome. I am in favor of keeping it the same.
Okay,
I would change it.
change it.
I would change it.
Mr. Menke.
I think it's going to be a learning experience. I think people are used to hauling their junk to the curb and watching it disappear in 5 minutes, and I think I have no problems with the change, though, and as an experimental process, being willing to change back to the other way if possible, if we need to.
Okay, Mr. Hill.
I'm willing to go for the change and see how it goes this year and deal with it. Maybe next year we have to change.
Well, the nice thing is this body can come back next year and undo what you just did. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works well, you can change it, mold it, sculpt it how you'd like. So, looks like you've got your direction.
Yeah. If it doesn't work, it's all my fault. If it's great, you
Oh,
guys
don't
take
worry.
the
We'll
credit.
make sure people know it.
If
It's
it
all
goes
your-
great, you guys take the credit. To clarify,
Thanks, quarterback.
Yeah.
the TVs, are you guys willing to take 2 TVs for nothing per load, or do you want to? And the tires, Jeff mentioned tires, but I didn't hear anyone else.
Well, then
You're,
you
you're
got-
saving, I'm sorry. You're saving thousands and thousands of dollars in man hours and fuel costs and equipment damage. I'd say allow 2 of each. Is anybody object to allowing 2 of each?
Nope.
Sound good?
Okay.
I'm okay.
Mr. Halter, did you have something you wanted to add?
I don't think so. And if I did, I forgot.
Okay, we'll take a couple of minutes here and get started with our 6 o'clock meeting here in about 2-3 minutes.
Olstott.
Here.
Minky. Hill.
If you would stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Take a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that carried unanimous. At the beginning of each of our council meetings, we like to read our character count statement. Fort Dodge is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Okay, good news.
Got one thing. I know Public Works always seems to take a beating this time of year because of not their fault potholes. But I think they've done a fantastic job this year. We've had several ice events that have popped open potholes again. And even with back-to-back-to-back storms, they get out there and fill as many potholes as possible and have been pretty darn quick, in my mind, to get them filled up. So I'd like to give them some credit for doing that.
And just to add to that, I noticed that the See Click Fix app is being used a lot to turn in potholes. I think I'm getting like 2 or 3 notifications a day for the last several days in a row now. So it's just nice to see that citizens are using that. It definitely helps our people to identify where the problem is so they can get it fixed as quickly as possible. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, hang out afterwards so I can show you this awesome application that we have for the city so that if you see something that just doesn't look right or needs repaired, how you can easily report it to us.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a whole slug of public hearings, so we'll read each public hearing, and if you have comments on any of these hearings, please hop up to the podium. We'll give you a chance to address the council during the hearing time. So we're going to get kicked off with item 3, public hearing.
Public hearing for the purpose of instituting proceedings and taking action to enter into a loan and disbursement agreement to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $700,000 for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of planning, designing, and constructing improvements and extensions to the city's municipal water works system.
We'll declare this hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close that hearing and move to item 3A.
Resolution taking additional action with respect to a water revenue loan and disbursement agreement and authorizing, approving, and securing payment of a $700,000 water revenue loan and disbursement agreement anticipation project note.
Yet, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move agenda item 3A.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
Yeah, this $700,000 is for the service of getting the RO or reverse osmosis going. That's for the water plant.
Okay. All those in favor of item 3A, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 4 is a public hearing.
Public hearing for the purpose of instituting proceedings and taking action on a proposal to enter into a loan agreement to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $7 million for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of number 1, constructing street, water system, sanitary sewer system, sidewalk, and stormwater drainage improvements. Number 2, undertaking the removal of dams and stream bed improvements. Number 3, acquiring and demolishing abandoned, dangerous, and/or dilapidated properties. Number 4, acquiring and equipping computer software and vehicles for the municipal police department. Number 5, acquiring equipment for the use in existing municipal cemeteries. And number 6, improving and equipping an existing municipal park.
We'll declare the hearing open and ask first for written comments.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 5, which is a public hearing.
Public hearing for the purpose of instituting proceedings and taking action on a proposal to enter into a loan agreement to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $700,000 for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of constructing improvements to City Hall.
We'll declare the hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comment from the public on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing item and move to item 6, public hearing.
Public hearing for the purpose of instituting proceedings and taking action on a proposal to enter into a loan agreement to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $485,000 for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of number 1, constructing improvements to the municipal library, number 2, acquiring a vehicle for use by the Municipal Public Works Inspection Department, and number 3, acquiring computer equipment and software for use at City Hall.
We'll declare the public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close this hearing and move to item 7, a public hearing.
Public hearing for the purpose of instituting proceedings and taking action on a proposal to enter into a loan agreement and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $700,000 for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of constructing improvements to a municipal fire station.
We'll declare this public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public on this hearing item? Hearing no comment, we'll close this hearing and move to item 8, a public hearing.
Public hearing for the purpose of instituting proceedings and taking action on a proposal to enter into a loan agreement and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $650,000 for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of constructing repairs and extensions to the municipal recreation trail system.
We'll declare this public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public on this hearing item? Hearing no comment, we'll close the hearing and move to item 8A.
Resolution ratifying authorization of a loan agreement and a general obligation corporate purpose note and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move agenda item 8A.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
Lots of good stuff.
All those in favor of 8A, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 8B.
Resolution authorizing and combining loan agreements, approving the future issuance of general obligation corporate purpose bonds, providing the levy of taxes to pay the same.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move agenda item 8B.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if they want to know how this all breaks down, they can go to the city website, and it's right there how it's all broken down.
Okay. All those in favor of item 8B, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 9 is a public hearing on adopting city budget for fiscal year 2019. I'll declare the hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Any comments from the public on this hearing item? This is the adoption of our budget. Hearing none, I'll close the hearing and move to item 9A.
Resolution adopting FY19 city budget.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move agenda item 9A.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
Yeah,
Like
the
to thank you.
2019 budget is,
Go ahead.
oh, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I was just going to thank the mayor for taking the shortest public hearing from Jeff.
Well, after I read public hearing, there's only like 8 words, so I just kind of rolled with it.
So what I was going to say is in 2019, we're not going to raise the property taxes on the people in Fort Dodge. So that's good news.
Okay. I would like to thank Mr. Nemmers, and Mr. Fierick for their hard work in preparing this year's budget, and to the council for working through all the painstaking meetings and all the information you have to take in and make decisions with. We were able to keep taxes level this year at the same millage rate. And as you see, we have been retiring debt and bringing debt on at the same time. So even with all those previous public hearings where we're issuing debt, we're still maintaining the same tax rate because we're retiring debt at the same rate as taking on debt. And that comes back to good leadership, good planning by our staff in laying out a capital improvement plan and then using that plan to implement a good quality budget that's moving our community forward. So thank you to all the staff and folks that helped make this happen.
Well, talking to Jeff, he was quite creative. It was kind of hard, wasn't it, Jeff?
It's very challenging with some of the things that the state legislature sometimes gives to us.
Right.
Wonderful segue for what I wanted to say, Jeff. So for the public that is here, I would just like to make you aware that our friends in Des Moines who had recently in the past done a corporate rollback of property taxes, that we were ensured that we would see fills from that, backfill from that, from any losses that we lost until those tax cuts could balance out for municipalities. Right now, they have just filed a House file in Des Moines to start limiting and ending those backfills, which is going to put a lot of municipalities, including ourselves, forced to become even more creative than what we've had to be this year. So keep in mind that we may be sitting here next year and we're trying to figure out where we're going to fill that from. And it's either going to be cuts in services or it's going to be raising in taxes. So I would encourage you to look into that House file bill. I believe it was just filed today. And contact your state representatives down in Des Moines and let them know how you may or may not feel about it.
And that backfill amount is $600,000. That's for the city of Fort Dodge. That's a lot of money.
It is. All good comments. Anything else from anyone? All right. All those in favor of item 9A, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 10 is a public hearing.
Public hearing on proposed plans and specifications, proposed form of contract, and estimate of costs for the CSI hydraulic upgrades G10 and M05 Phase 2 project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
We'll declare the hearing open and ask for a written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 10A.
Resolution approving plans and specifications, form of contract, and estimate of costs for the CSI hydraulic upgrades G10 and M05 Phase 2 project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the plan specifications, form of contract, estimated costs for the CSI hydraulic upgrades.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 10B, please.
Resolution awarding contract for the Fort Dodge CSI hydraulic upgrades G10 and M05 Phase 2 project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa to Crow River Construction in the amount of $369,489.30.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the contract for the Fort Dodge CSI hydraulic upgrades to Crow River Construction.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
Let's get her going.
It's a good project. We did have three bidders on this project. One was local, the other two from out of town. It was pretty tight bidding, but Crow River was the lowest successful bidder. So with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 11 is a public hearing.
Public hearing on proposed plans and specifications, proposed form of contract, and estimate of costs for the South Central Drainage Improvements Project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
We will declare this public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Any comments from the public on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 11A.
Resolution approving plans and specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the South Central Drainage Improvements Project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the South Central Drainage Improvement Project.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 11B.
Resolution awarding contract for the South Central Drainage Improvement Project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa to Rash Construction Incorporated in the amount of $1,372,327.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to award the contract to Rash Construction for the South Central Drainage Improvement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
Yeah, it's just nice to see we have a local bidder on this project.
Yep, there was 3 bidders, and our local bidder was low on this one. So, okay, all those in favor of 11B, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 12 is a public hearing.
Public hearing on proposed plans and specifications, proposed form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2018 PCC patch project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
We'll declare this public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 12A.
Resolution approving plans and specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2018 PCC patch project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the plan, specifications, form of contract, estimate of cost for the patch project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in...
Another local company?
Yep. Sure. Yeah, excuse me. Yep, item 12A. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 12B.
Resolution awarding contract for the 2018 PCC patch project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa to Castor Construction in the amount of $442,793.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the contract for Castor Construction for the patch project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? No. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Item 13 is a public hearing.
Public hearing on proposed plans and specifications, proposed form of contract, and estimate of costs for the 2018 street repair project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
We'll declare this hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 13A.
Resolution approving plans and specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2018 street repair project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2018 street repair project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Item 13B.
Resolution awarding contract for the 2018 street repair project for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa to Fort Dodge Asphalt Company in the amount of $1,182,036.17.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the contract Fort Dodge Asphalt for the 2018 street repair project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
Yeah, these are streets that really need to be worked on, so we're really happy to see this happening.
Yeah, a couple of these I get calls on frequently, so
Yeah.
it'll be nice to get them repaired. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 14 is a public hearing.
Public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance, Fort Dodge, Iowa Property Maintenance Code, also known as the 2015 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code.
We'll declare the hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public on this hearing item? We've switched topics here. We're on an ordinance for property maintenance. Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 14A.
First consideration of ordinance number 2282, an ordinance adopting the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Mr. Mayor, I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments from the public? From the table?
I know last time this was brought up, we had brought up some concerns regarding pre-existing things. Have those been addressed?
I'll kick that to David.
One of those were like height of windows at the time the house was built, it meets code, but now we go in with new codes and now it doesn't meet it. We're going to ask people to tear windows out, replace siding, put in new windows. Same is true for water heaters, air conditioning units, heating units. You know, if they were put in 10 years ago, they're not going to meet this current code, but they met the code at the time they were installed.
There were 3 items that were concerns. One of them was the carbon monoxide detectors. That was new. One of them was the parking or not being allowed to park in the front yard. And then the third one was the windows you were talking about. The carbon monoxide detector, that's kind of a state code, so we're just following state code now with the carbon monoxide. With the parking, the concern was that we were going to make all pre-existing gravel parking driveways illegal. That's not the case. If you have a pre-existing non-conforming, which is what a gravel driveway is, you can keep that and you can park on that. You can't park on your grass. If you expand gravel, then that's a violation of the zoning ordinance, and we'll be addressing that. But from the property maintenance side, it does allow for the parking on gravel. I'm quickly looking for what we did on the windows side. Did we make a change on the windows, Chad, do you recall, or is Troy here to discuss windows? I'm not seeing, I'm looking.
I know my specific ones I brought up were water heaters, heating units, air conditioning units, that those things met the code 5, 10, 15 years ago when they were installed, but they're not going to meet the current code in regards to ventilation.
Right, Chad Schaefer, Director of Engineering and Business Affairs. The way this is written is that anything that's existing that is not to be changed can remain. If something is going to go in new, then it needs to be brought up to the new code.
Okay, so when they go and inspect a rental property, if that water heater that was put in 10 years ago met code 10 years ago, they're not going to make you update it to meet the code that we're passing tonight.
Correct.
Okay.
As long as we can prove that it met the code before.
Okay.
And then, if you're going to go in and put a new water heater in,
Then it should meet
it should be
the
brought
current
up to
code,
the-
correct?
Correct. Yep.
But there's been instances in the past where they go in, well, this water heater that's in there doesn't meet the current code. Yeah, well, it met the code when it was put in. Well, it needs to meet the code now.
Is that debate, and there's a debate of whether was that property ever inspected, was that, for instance, water heater just installed, and may have been correctly done, may have not been, but it was never inspected to be approved, and so that's where we try to go back and try to relay those steps to figure out what was done in the past.
Okay, so this could take some administrative time.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay,
Other questions for Chad?
I'm going to hold you to
We're
that,
on the
Chad.
ordinance?
Okay.
Okay. First consideration, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 15 is a public hearing.
Public hearing to change the land use from single-family detached to single-family attached, and to change the zoning from single-family residential to single-family residential zero-lot line for property located in Webster County, Iowa, known as Gypsum Creek Crossing, First Edition, Fort Dodge, Iowa, recorded in document numbers 2002-5781 and 2002-6890 in the Webster County Recorder's Office.
We'll declare the public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There was one written comment was received from Stuart Andreessen of 3579 10th Avenue North, stating that he lives next to the proposed North 36th Street that would be built as part of the Gypsum Creek Crossing development. The street would be a major safety issue to him with blind traffic, and he wanted to make sure any of the driveway locations or final appearance to his property would be paid for by the city or the developer. Mr. Andreessen supported the development project, saying it was a very good for the east side of Fort Dodge.
Please record that and make available to the public. Any other written comment?
No other written comments.
Is there any comments from the public this evening? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 15A.
First consideration of ordinance number 2283, an ordinance providing for a change in the land use and rezoning of the property in the city of Fort Dodge, Webster County, Iowa.
Mr. Mayor, so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
This is the new housing development called Gypsum Creek Crossing, which is off 10th Avenue North.
We don't have a problem with relocating the driveway that this gentleman's talking about. We wouldn't have a problem with that, right? We're working with him.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation that we'll have, assuming this passes with the developer on how to relocate that driveway.
Okay, so we will work with him.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Does this include the recommendation from the planning and zoning that revert back if the developer did not follow through?
Does the ordinance you're passing?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know off the top of my head. I was going to go look for it, but Maggie says yes.
Anything else from the table? Okay. This is the first reading of this ordinance. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Item 16 is return to table. Item 16A, please.
Resolution approving the acquisition of property at 1335 8th Avenue South and waiving of special assessment.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to return the resolution to acquire the property to the table.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to return to the table. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that it is returned to the table.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the resolution to acquire the property at 1335 8th Avenue South and waive the special assessment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the acquisition. Although, any questions for the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 17 is committee and department reports, correspondence and proclamations. I have one proclamation. Is anyone here to receive the Problem Gambling Awareness Month proclamation? I'll meet you at the podium. Good evening. This is a proclamation. Whereas the National Council on Problem Gambling was designated March 2018 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Problem gambling is a public health issue affecting millions of Americans of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds. And whereas problem gambling has a significant societal and economic cost for families individuals, businesses, and communities. Whereas problem gambling is treatable and treatment is effective in minimizing this harm to both individuals and society as a whole. And whereas numerous individuals, professionals, and organizations have dedicated their efforts to the education of the public about problem gambling and the availability and effectiveness of treatment. And whereas the National Council on Problem Gambling and Community and Family Resources invite all residents of Fort Dodge to participate in Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Matt Bemrick, Mayor of the City of Fort Dodge, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the month of March 18th as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Fort Dodge and encourage all citizens to support the National Council on Problem Gambling and Community and Family Resources in their efforts to have the conversation with friends, family, and patients and clients about gambling addiction. Thank you. Ben, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing this month?
Sure. My name is Ben Rasmussen, and I am from Community and Family Resources. I am a prevention specialist with Community and Family Resources. And so, as Mayor Bemrich said, this month is National Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and we did just have Governor Reynolds declare the state of Iowa as working in conjunction with Problem Gambling Awareness Month as well last Wednesday. So what we are doing, we're just trying to raise awareness in the communities in regards to all the issues that come with problem gambling. Roughly here in Iowa, within the last year, there's about 13% or 294,000 adult Iowans who have experienced problem gambling or experienced a problem related to their gambling in the past year. And so we are hoping to raise awareness to that to the community so that we can have talks with our, whether that be a family member or somebody that you are friends with or in close connection with, to help raise the talk to address those issues. So we also offer many other services other than just gambling, but for the month of March, we're putting some focus back in the community on gambling issues. So I do have some of our flyers that we have for Community and Family Resources, and also some information on gambling awareness for you guys to hang on to or distribute as you would like.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's all I
Leave
have.
them with the clerk. We'll make sure everybody gets a copy.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, under committee and department reports, I believe we have our favorite tree trimmer in Fort Dodge. Talk a little bit about Emerald Ash Borer and the update of what's going on with that.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lund, Parks and Forestry Superintendent. Just letting you know here where Emerald Ash Borer is at this point. You can see it's kind of moving in on us a little bit. We're at 53 counties out of the 99 have already got positive identification. It's moving at 10 to 12 counties a year, so you can see where we fall in there. As they start filling in, I would say within the next year or two, we're going to be in that group. So the progress that we've made, I'm glad we started early, because it's a slow and a long, tedious process. If you move to the next map. There you go. This right here, we have about 60 residents that decided they want to treat their ash trees on the right-of-way. I told them I would call them when it gets within 15 miles, and we don't really want people treating their ash trees until it is within 15 miles, because you're wasting your money, and want to try to save the environment as much as possible. As you can see right there, we're not there yet. Hopefully we can hold it off for a while, but when it does get within that area, all 60 of the residents that decided to treat their ash trees on the right-of-way, I will call. So, and I will notify, probably in the newspaper, whatever. I'm sure it'll be on the newspaper, on the radio, when Emerald Ash Borer is found in Webster County. Could be here already. We haven't found it. It's difficult to find and difficult to see, so. Yeah.
Oops.
we started out with 2,400. It's actually 2,450 ash trees on the city right of way. To this point, I looked today before I left, and we were at, where are we at here? 1,428. So we're getting there. It's a slow process. We can do 300 to 400 a year. We did 340 last year. We had 6 weeks during that May that we never did any, just because of the high winds that we had. We were cleaning up from that. So we averaged 300 to 400 snow removal, things like that. Bad winter this year. We're kind of behind from where we've been in the past. So there's different things that slow it down. The average cost per removal, $334 per tree. A tad bit on the high side, just because when we do stump removal, I will put in a few that aren't ash trees. They will be in there that aren't ash trees. I can't separate them off and go get them because it's not efficient for us. So it doesn't change a lot, but it's on the higher side. As you can see, it takes 2.8 hours for our 3-man crew to do a tree. Our guys, they're pretty good. They're pretty efficient. The 2.8 hours is from start to finish. That's stump gone, dirt in the hole, and that's complete. So we're moving along pretty good. We have about 1,000 left on the right of way and in the parks. The places that we have left: Cooper School area, North 22nd Street, east. So we have Cooper School area, 29th Street, Knollcrest, that area. Most of the other parts of town are done. You will see some. They're probably under primary lines or might be marked for treatment. So, any questions?
And if they are marked for treatment, there's a
little silver
tag. Yep.
little silver.
I actually have some tagged in my
Yep. You have
my
a couple
yard.
tag. Yep.
So Kevin, could you tell the people why we want to remove these trees now and not wait? So could you tell them why we're doing this so quickly?
Yeah, we try to get a jump on them, because if they start dying in front of us, what I read before we started here, it said don't let it get ahead of you, because if you're a tree trimmer or a tree remover, when you take down a dead tree, it takes twice as long as taking down a live tree. So we want to try to get these before they die. As you can see, we got about 1,000 left. We can do about 300 a year, so we're in good shape right now. We just don't want them to start dying in front of us, because what happens is they get brittle, and it's a big problem for the city, dropping on cars and citizens walking down right by the sidewalk and so forth. So as long as we stay ahead, we're good now. I was kind of worried at the beginning if we would have got it right away from the start, we'd have really had to hustle. Probably had to hire some out, but we're in pretty good shape now.
Okay.
Hopefully in 3 years we should be about there.
And if you were hiring out, you could take that 334 and probably add a 0 to it for each tree. I just know what I had to pay after the storm, and it was a lot more than 334.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
expensive.
that's cheap.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Thanks for your hard work.
Yep.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, moving on to item 17A, boards and commissions. I have numerous board recommendations tonight. I would like to recommend the following reappointments to the Board of Animal Appeals. Dr. Michael Bodorf will continue on the board. His term would expire 12/31 of 2020. And Phyllis Michelson, who is a non-pet owner, which is required of that board, is willing to continue on the board. Her term would expire 12/31 of 2020. I would also like to recommend the following appointments to the Board of Animal Appeals. Bob Martin, who is a pet owner, has agreed to serve on the board. His term would expire 12/31 of 2020. And Dr. Lee Meyer agreed to serve as an alt vet on the board. Her term would expire 12/31 of 2020.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to reappoint Dr. Bodorf and Phyllis Michelson to the Board of Appeals and appoint Bob Martin and Dr. Meyer to the Board of Animal Appeals.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. I'd also like to recommend the following appointment to the Blandon Board of Trustees. William Ringwald will be replacing Marty Ingalls. William's term will expire 12/30 of 2022.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to appoint William Ringwald III to the Blandon Board of Trustees.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I would like to recommend the following appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission. Jennifer Becker has agreed to serve on this commission. She will be replacing Eddie O'Farrell. Jennifer's term would expire 4/12 of 2023.
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Jenny Becker to the Historic Preservation Commission.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Item 18 is comments and questions from the public. Is there any comments or questions not on the agenda? Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd move to item 19, the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I would move the consent agenda, removing items L and Q for separate vote.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, removing L and Q. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item L.
Resolution approving acceptance of right-of-way for the South Central Drainage Improvements Project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the table?
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to personally thank the United States Gypsum and Dennis Frank for the donation of the right-of-way for this project.
Very well. It is a good project, and then we do appreciate their assistance. Okay, all those in favor of item L, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item Q.
Professional services agreement in the amount of $46,240 with McClure Engineering for Williams Drive Sanitary Sewer Improvements Project.
Mr. Mayor, I so move.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public, or from the table?
Mr. Mayor asked to pull this one. I wonder if Chad, if you could come forward and just maybe address some concerns that the citizens on North 7th might have regarding that pump station or lift station.
Again, Chad Schaefer, Director of Engineering and Business Affairs. So what we have here tonight is a preliminary engineering study that we're proposing to have McClure Engineering do that would look at our sanitary sewer system up in the to the southwest of Williams Bend, or the Williams Bend subdivision, the Oak Forest subdivision area. We have an existing lift station in that area that's I don't know how old, very old. It does not have backup power, and so we've had some issues with it. We also have had some issues with basement backups in that area in the past. And so what this engineering report would look at is, would look at a new location for a new lift station, which would more than likely be further to the north and west of the Oak Forest lift station, potentially located on North 7th Street, which would be north of the Loomis Park area.
Throw the map up.
And that would, what that would do is allow us to serve a greater area than the Oak Forest lift station currently. It would provide backup power, so we wouldn't have any issues there, and be compliant with the DNR. And would also give us another option to send that wastewater in a high flow type situation to this lift station. So it does a multitude of things. When you look at the map, you can see that the service area would also extend up North 7th Street to Miller Drive and a couple of the other areas up there.
Yeah, it's down below the documents in the agenda item. If you go click on Q and go down about middle of the daily, you'll see a Yep.
Yep. Keep going. Keep going.
There you go.
Right there.
So the blue and the purple line for proposed extensions to Miller Drive and 28th Avenue North down 7th would be something that we would offer to do at some date if there were people that wanted to connect.
Correct.
And we would, at that point, determine if there would be a connection fee or not.
Correct.
Yeah, so it'd just be, it'd be a matter of if they came to us and said, hey, we want to hook in, they can come to us, and if they get a group, we could extend down there.
Right.
That's not being
and
proposed to
That's
be
not proposed
built.
right now, no. What we're looking at is just the new lift station, running gravity sewer down to the new lift station, and then the force main back up and along to the south, going down Williams Drive. We also know that several of the homes along 7th Street and in that area, Miller Drive, have just invested money in new septic systems. And so, again, that if they're well positioned to do that and their system's working well, there's no reason for us to push this. But what we need to do is we need to look at how are we going to upgrade our system, because we have those issues of potential basement backups and the failing Oak Forest lift station.
Other questions?
So what's nice about this project in the future, if the people up to the north on North 7th Street, if they want to hook on in the future, that's a possibility then.
Right. That's what we're looking at, and that's why we've identified that area, because we want to make sure that we do this once to be able to serve them if we need to in the future.
Because it was proposed in like 1967 or something to put that there, and it was never done, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Are all those properties on Miller, correct me, help me with my ignorance here, are those within city limits?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know it's a private drive, so I just didn't know if it was considered.
It's debatable if it's a private drive, too. We've had that argument a few times. At this point, it's still a private drive. Anything else for Chad?
Nope.
Thanks, Chad. Okay. All those in favor of item Q, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 20 is final payments. Item 20A, please.
Pay estimate number 8, final, to Fort Dodge Asphalt in the amount of $59,570.45 for the 2017 street repair project.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve pay estimate number 8 to Fort Dodge Asphalt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? From the table?
No, I was just happy to see that under the consent agenda that we're going to figure out something to do with Highland Park Bridge. Try to find some ideas for that.
Okay. Any comments on this item? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Opposed? That's all right. Item 21 is comments and questions from the public.
That's
Any-
where I thought we were.
It's all right. I kind of got that. Item 21, comments and questions from the public. Is there anything additional tonight? Hearing none, I take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.